Okay, viewers, let's see. Let's see what the highly educated people that are getting just under $500,000 a year to tell us what a male and female are up to.
Commissioner, I wanted to ask about your speech to the National Press Club last month. You said in response to a question about the protection of women's rights under CEDAW that we are not one version of woman. Now, last I checked, a woman is an adult human female with XX chromosomes. So what did you mean when you said we are not one version of woman?
That there is a great diversity in who we are as women, so that includes culturally, racially marginalised women, First Nations women, women with disability, lesbians, trans women, non-binary. There are a range of people who identify as women who are women.
Did you mean that biological males can be women?
Men. So I think that we have different language that perhaps you're using than I would use. So I don't understand the term biological men.
So is a biological, viewers, is a biological male a biological man? If you've got two biological males, that's two men. That's men. It's going into the plural. These people, right? These people are running our country. And they're going to court and they're spending millions and who knows, hundreds of thousands of dollars, even tens of thousands of dollars, fighting over a man wanting to be a woman and trying to convince people that that's what he is. Now, in the old days when we went to school, I'm just going to put this out there, we used to bash the poofters up. We'd take them down onto the footy field and bash them up. And they'd go running off, and then we'd get the cane and all the rest of it. But one thing was for sure, they weren't going to be going back into the female toilets and giving the girls the creeps. I mean, these people were creepy. Dressing up in their mum's dresses and putting mum's knickers on and running around with mum's bra on. You know, getting caught at school with female clothes in their back. We'd just bash them up. And we'd get in trouble for that, that's fair enough. But it wasn't normal, it was weird. Now, we've got people in high places, right? And as far as I'm concerned, completely demonised, that are trying to convince taxpayers, using taxpayers' money, that males are females. Now, they can be morons and imbeciles and deluded as much as they like, but that doesn't mean we have to. The problem is, if you see a bloke walking into a female toilet at the shopping centre dressed up as a woman, and thinks that gives him the right to do that, and you confront the person, then you're going to get lumbered, just like at school. You get lumbered and get the cane, or have to stand with your nose in the corner, whatever it was. Didn't change anything. These people were still running around. What they're basically doing is making a force field for themselves to push their wicked, evil ways into the society. That's all they're doing. Now let's see how educated this woman actually is, because she's the ambassador for sex discrimination in Australia.
Right. This might be a short tranche of questions then. Commissioner, does the Sex Discrimination Act protect the rights of women based on their sex?
Yes, it does.
How?
So the Sex Discrimination Act makes it unlawful to treat someone less favourably on the basis of their sex. So, for example, not giving someone a job because they are a woman, or not giving them a promotion because they are a woman, then that would be against the law under the Sex Discrimination Act.
And just
So let me just ask you, viewers, is it against the law for a man to walk into a female toilet? Is it against the law to do that? I mean, I could put on a wig. I could go and put on a wig and walk up to the local shopping centre and walk into the toilet, right? And, you know, stand at whatever. I'd have to stand and urinate in the female toilet, come out with the wig on. You got the women in there with their little girls and whatnot going about their business. And I'm a male. But am I a male? I said I was a female. And this is where these completely twisted, like in the old days, these people would have been hung. They just hang them and get them out of the community. I'm not saying that should happen here, but that's what they used to do. But because they're allowed to get away with it now, they'll go to these extremes. And this is extreme. This isn't sane. This isn't Christian. It's from another spiritual dimension, and I believe an evil one. Now, yeah, you give credence to people that are, you know, something's happened in their life, the small percentage that actually were born men, and, you know, it's obviously clear that they got some female thing going on. But this has gone all too far.
so I'm abundantly clear, you're saying that the Sex Discrimination Act does protect the rights of biological females based on their sex.
So again, I'll change the language. It protects.
Now, she thinks it's a joke. This woman thinks it's an absolute... It's not a joke, because you have got men that think they're women going into private spaces of women. And as I said, if it was my daughter or something in the old days, we'd see to it ourselves. You can't trust the law to sort this out. We just see to it ourselves at school and that. You'd bash them up. You know, or you'd drag them along the grass on the oval or this kind of, and they'd run away. Because they knew they were doing, you know, somebody's trying to show them that you can't go into the female toilets if you're a bloke pretending to be a girl.
Women from discrimination.
But it doesn't protect biological females.
It does not use the language of biological female. It uses man and woman.
That's convenient.
Okay, so what's... So basically what she's saying is the biology has nothing to do with whether you're a male or female. It comes down to how you feel. It comes down to how you feel about yourself. Now, the problem with this is some of these people are little kids, young kids, their parents driven this agenda on their kids. They've gone and had them chopped up and changed and all the rest of it. And the child's come out of the influences of the schools and the parents and whatever has gone along with the agenda and realised that there's been a grave mistake made. Once you start getting into adult tendencies of this kind, like the deviancy that comes along, see, what she doesn't want to admit or come up against is the deviancies around these things. Like any normal woman in a right mind would not want a man parading as a woman in her private space unless she had some kind of deviancy problem as well, and there's plenty of them out there. Obviously this woman's one of them, because if I come up to her and I was combing my beard in the ladies' toilet, right, in the mirror, combing my beard, and the woman's looking at me like I'm stupid, I'm just going to turn around and go, hang on a minute, I'm a woman. Right? I'm more of a woman than you. That's how this works. There's no boundaries at all. None. So that's where the Middle East comes in, because you don't do this in the Middle East because you actually get killed. Right? So for those of you that are trying to help the Muslims along and the Sharia law and all the rest of it and think you're going to play this game, oh, they'll love you. They'll just chop you up. It's how it works.
Brilliant. Commissioner, does the Sex Discrimination Act protect the provision of women's single-sex spaces and services? Let me rephrase that question, given what you've just said. Does the Sex Discrimination Act protect the provision of female single-sex spaces and services?
So it is, under the Sex Discrimination Act, there can be special measures if they are to achieve equality, substantive equality. So, for example, a program to address the lack of women carpenters that was provided only to women apprentices, that would be considered a special measure. So
that's not what she's talking about, though. If a woman wants to be a carpenter or a bricklayer, that's her bad luck. I can say that because I'm a bricklayer and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. I mean, if a woman wants to be a rodeo rider or all this other stuff that women want to do that men do, that's fine. But we're talking about getting down behind closed doors. We're talking about getting in private spaces. We're not talking about careers. We're not talking about who cooks and eats what. We're talking about what's going on when the private parts come out.
It's not providing the same treatment to men who are training to be carpenters, but it's providing a measure to try and improve equality for women who are wanting to be carpenters.
What if it were provided to biological females who wanted to be carpenters?
So it doesn't, the Sex Discrimination Act doesn't use that language. It uses the language of man and woman.
No wonder Australian women are disappointed. Commissioner, you'd be familiar with the Victorian case of a male pedophile being housed in a women's prison. It's been in the media in the last week. For the purposes of the Sex Discrimination Act, do you consider that this man, who is a child sex offender, is a woman?
The Sex Discrimination Act includes trans women within it. So the person who I believe you're referring to is a trans woman.
Right. That was very revealing.
Earlier today, Senator Claire Chandler asked a rather simple question of Sex Discrimination Commissioner Anna Cody, and she got this astonishing response.
There are a range of people who identify as women who are women.
Did you mean that biological males can be women?
Men. So I think that we have different language that perhaps you're using than I would use. So I don't understand the term biological men.
Is that sane? Like even a young child would know that is not sane. That's evil.
Right. This might be a short tranche of questions then.
Did she really say she doesn't understand terms like biological men? I've listened to the full answer, and Dan, it does not get better. In fact, it gets worse. How could someone like her be in that role? She is the Sex Discrimination Commissioner. She's supposed to be there in part to protect the rights of girls and women, and she doesn't seem to be able to define one.
Well, we're governed by morons, and, you know, I just don't, you know, how much further can this go? How much longer can this go on for? We've seen this time and time again. There was that famous one of Senator Antic, you know, who stitched up one of the, I think it was the health officer who couldn't define what a woman was. And then they sort of go on these long and elaborate sort of, you know, sort of non-answers, and people just look at it, normal people look at it and go, well, you can't tell me what a man or a woman is? I mean, if you can't define what that is, how can you have confidence in anything else that they do? And unfortunately, the governing bodies of our society and the public service more generally is just infiltrated with these people that have been completely taken over by this radical gender ideology, and it's sending them down all of these bizarre rabbit holes.
Well, we went to Anna Cody last week to get some sort of commentary on a male sexual predator who identifies as female being housed with women in a Victorian prison. No comment on that. And I think I can understand why there was no comment on that, hearing that answer today. It is absolutely shocking. It's not good enough. Now, before you go, I just want to get your take on a story the Daily Telegraph had.
Cody and the intervention in Giggle versus Tickle, please. Thank you for appearing, Dr. Cody. What are you arguing in your... This is the case of someone, Giggle versus Tickle, who was born a biological male, being stopped from joining a women-only app. What are you arguing in your intervention? How much are you being paid by the taxpayers to go in and bat for biological, born and developed men to be allowed into women's spaces?
Thank you, Senator. The role that we have within the case Giggle and Tickle is intervention, so amicus curiae, so helping the court to understand the interpretation of the Sex Discrimination Act and the amendments from 2013.
Well, just so you know, let's see what Giggle versus Tickle is.
Roxy Tickle was born a man, but now identifies as a woman. But when Roxy joined the female-only app, Giggle for Girls, she got barred. It raised the question, what's it mean to be female? That was answered by the federal court today.
Roxy Tickle, how are you? How are you feeling today?
We will focus at the moment.
Tickle versus Giggle.
Sal Grover, good morning. How are you feeling ahead of today's decision?
Good.
Today's ruling in the landmark case between transgender woman Roxy Tickle and Giggle.
Does she look like a Sheila to you? If she does, that's that one on the right. Well, good luck with that.
Giggle for Girls app owner Sal Grover means we now live in a different Australia, according to Sex Discrimination Commissioner Anna Cody.
So what the judge found is that there's 30 years of legal precedent, legal cases which have found that woman includes trans women.
And Women's
How the hell?
Forum Australia CEO Rachel Wong.
In practical terms, any man who feels like a woman, says he's a woman, identifies as a woman, can access female-only spaces like bathrooms, changing rooms.
Till now, the argument, what is a woman, has been stuck in a social grey area.
So what that means, what these people are saying is, and I said it earlier in this video, I can put on a wig, I can put on a shirt saying I'm a woman, walk into the female space where the little girls are and all the rest of it, mum's changing their babies' nappies and all the rest of it, stand there and have a piss, shake me willy all over the place like you, whatever, and you know, and I'm a woman? How insane is that? How these people need to be locked up. Like, can't you see the evil that this does that produce evil or not? Does that produce circumstances where somebody's going to get hurt or not? Somebody's going to get hurt. Well, guess what? They have got hurt, because in America, they put a bloke in one of these blokes in a female prison, and he raped one of the Sheilas in the prison. It's insane.
Today, a federal court judge put it in black and white. His Honour found Tickle had been indirectly discriminated against when Tickle was kicked off Grover's Women's Only Help app.
I brought my case to show trans people that you can be brave and that you can stand up for yourself.
The app's
Oh, you've got to be kidding. He sounded like a little child.
AI gender recognition software designed to sift through members' uploaded selfie pics and screen out men allowed Tickle in, but Grover kicked her out.
And this woman's been to hell and back, the lady that runs the app.
Transgender woman claimed she was legally entitled to use services meant for women.
And that's a woman. You're kidding me.
She was discriminated against based on her gender identity.
Is that a woman to you, editor?
No way. No.
But a small group of people have taken it upon themselves to declare that I am not who I know I am, and they've set about making my life miserable.
Oh my God.
It's the first time alleged gender identity discrimination has been heard by our federal court, and the world was watching. Famous author J.K. Rowling and tennis great Martina Navratilova backing Grover in the 2.5-year acrimonious ideological debate, trans inclusion versus sex-based rights.
I know that I can now get on with the rest of my life, have coffee down the road with my friends, play hockey with my hockey team, and now put all of this horribleness behind me. Thank you.
Roxy, what was...
And I can do it as a man being a woman. God. Now this is the lady that ran the app and had to put up with this weirdo.
He called and texted my phone.
If you win this case, will it change everything?
Yeah.
What's Giggle?
Giggle is a social networking app exclusively for women. So my mum and I came up with the idea in 2018, 2019. And it stemmed from I'd been in Hollywood as a screenwriter in the pre-Me Too era, and it's as bad as they say it is. It was a cesspool. I started with sexual harassment, escalated to quite a few instances of like full-blown sexual assault, attempted rape. And I just wanted to sell scripts. It was really bad. And on that, I didn't realize that I was actually being treated differently because I was a woman, but I was. There's not that many women screenwriters. When Me Too started happening, we all sort of started talking to each other and going, oh, it was happening to you too. So it's sort of isolation by design. And so, we were all internalizing it, thinking it's our own fault and, oh, am I not talented enough or whatever? No, it's just pure sexism. But it was rare that happened. But that was the one thing, whenever we'd be getting the racism claims, I'd be going, no, this is not this. And I just find it really horrible to say use women of color as a tool in an attempt to attack other people. It's putting them down. I will defend them. No, I would never do anything like that. And women of all different races and ethnicities were welcome on the app, and we're using the app. It's just nonsense to say anything else.
Just tell me, so what's going on now with this court case?
Okay, so in 2021, a man onboarded Giggle, and he got on. Now, that was not something that was like an event in any way, shape, or form. Because so with the AI, we had it set to 94% accuracy. We had done testing and seen that 94% accuracy meant no woman got rejected unless it was like that pixelated or blurry thing, like as I was saying. And occasionally a man would get on, but rightly or wrongly, we made the decision that we didn't want any barriers for women, and we would just remove a man if he got on. Simple as that. So this particular man did get on. I don't remember removing him because, as I said, it wasn't an event. Like, I removed many men, and like the AI overall worked, especially when we were under attack and there was like thousands of men an hour trying to get on. Because sometimes they would go through, like it would go viral on Twitter or like Twitch, whatever those gaming things are. They'd be taking the selfie and leaving reviews, and this would happen like once a month, every 6 weeks. It was like always intense, and you'd have to be there for like 48 hours, survive the attack, whatnot. So I don't remember doing it, but it would have been me. I just removed a man from the app, basically. When he became someone of note in my life was in October 2021. He called and texted my phone, and it was something to the effect of like, hi, I'm trying to get onto the app. I don't remember if he said that he had a gender identity then. I don't recall. But because the only data that we had for a user was their phone number, because that's like the anchor that anchors a user to the app, so the app would work. Like, everyone has to have something, whether it's email or phone number. So I just typed the phone number into the Giggle server, and I saw a picture of a man, and I was like, that's a man. I called my dad. I said, there's this guy. He's called and texted my phone. I'm a bit freaked out. No one else had ever done that. So we'd always be under attack and everything, but no one had ever called and texted my phone. And my dad said to me, block his number, forget about it, and don't tell your mother. Because my mum sees all the death threats that women get constantly. She lives in fear a bit. She's a protective, good mum. So I did that. I didn't tell mum. I just tried to forget about it. It did freak me out. And then On the 20th of January 2022, I got an Australian Human Rights Commission complaint for gender identity discrimination.
So you can see how they just intrude into the lives of people that are just trying to make provisions for women.
From this person, Roxy Tickle.
Roxy Tickle's the username.
Roxy Tickle's his legal name.
Roxy Tickle's his legal name.
Roxanne Tickle, yeah.
For God's sake.
my last name is Grover, so I'll defend him on this one thing. Last name.
But Tickle's not the real name, is it?
Yeah. And my last name is actually like a Muppet, so sometimes we all just have ridiculous names.
Tickle's just, but you don't know that. He might have chosen that.
Yeah, I don't know.
There is the Thick of It episode, you know?
Yeah.
Tickle,
Yes,
Mr.
yes,
Tickle.
I've heard of this.
So, okay, people are called that, and they were saying, no, it's Tickle. But
Yeah,
Miss,
no.
okay, Tickle, Roxanne Tickle, because let's be honest, that sounds like a porn star name.
Well, that's why, if it's maybe he said his name when he texted me, I'm not sure, but he could have, but I just feel like I would have remembered it.
Mm-hmm.
Tickle, Roxanne Tickle or Roxy Tickle's a memorable name. It's not like John.
Thank you for appearing, Dr. Cody. What are you arguing in your... This is the case of someone, Giggle versus Tickle, who was born a biological male, being stopped from joining a women-only app. What are you arguing in your intervention? How much are you being paid by the taxpayers to go in and bat for biological, born and developed men to be allowed into women's spaces?
Thank you, Senator. The role that we have within the case Giggle and Tickle is intervention, so amicus curiae, so helping the court to understand the interpretation of the Sex Discrimination Act and the amendments from 2013. Also how the Convention for the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women applies, whether or not there are special measures and the understanding of Section 5 and Section 7 of the Sex Discrimination Act. So we were given leave by the court to assist them to understand those issues and also the constitutionality of the Sex Discrimination Act. In terms of the cost, we have two counsel who were briefed, one who both agreed to
She's trying
appear
to
on a
dodge the
capped
question,
fee basis, so that's a reduced fee.
of her wage. She's switched it over to the representatives at the court, but he met her, you'll see in a minute.
So one was paid $13,000 and the other one was paid $10,000.
Thank you. What I actually asked Dr. Cody was, how much are you paid by the taxpayers to go in and bat for biological born and developed men?
Now, how much do you think this woman's getting paid? Hold your breath.
So my salary is similar to that you mentioned for Commissioner Sivaraman.
About $400,000 per year plus 15.4% super.
Correct.
Thank you.
$400 and something thousand a year plus 15% super.
If a woman took a case... just so that I can be clear, your position is that the law means a biological man who identifies as a transgender woman can enter a female-only space?
So I would question whether or not Roxanne Tickle is not a man. She is a trans woman, and so she has gone through various processes and has transitioned, and she's a trans woman. So she has access, or sought access, was provided access to the Giggle for Girls app, and then was taken off the access to Giggle for Girls app.
So what sort of chromosomes does she have? XX or XY?
I can't answer that, Senator.
You can't?
No, I can't answer that.
Wow. If a woman took a case to court today trying to stop a person with a penis... Well, let's come back to that. Can someone who was born on XY chromosomes change to XX chromosomes? A male change to female?
I don't believe so, but I'm not a scientist. There are many variations of chromosomes. There are hormonal variations, there's chromosomal variations.
No, but there's two foundational chromosomes patterns, and that's male and female. Now, she says she's not a scientist, but you'll see her jumping in and out of answering questions that suit her under the necessity of being a scientist. You watch this. This woman's dead set. She's cunning and conniving.
Genitalia variations, there's a lot of variations which are along a spectrum.
Would you agree that a piece of legislation can't change a person's sex? If born a man, they are a man. If they're born with XY chromosomes, they're a man and they stay man?
No, I would not agree.
You don't agree?
No.
If a woman took a case to court today, Dr. Cody, trying to stop a person with a penis who identified as a female going into a women's bathroom, which side would you be arguing for if you were there as a friend of the court?
Could you repeat that,
Sure.
Senator?
If a woman took a case to court today, trying to stop a person with a penis who identified as a female going into a woman's bathroom, which side would you be arguing for if you were the friend of the court?
I would need to know more facts, Senator. I can't make a judgment on that in particular.
Well, that's interesting because we know the answer to that.
So come back to your previous answer. You talked about XX, XY, you didn't really know the answer. How can you make a decision on sex?
The issue that I'm saying around me not being able to identify whether someone has XX or XY is because I haven't tested them. I'm not a scientist. That's not my area of expertise.
No, but she would be privy to the results of those tests. She would have to have access to the results of such tests. So what she's saying is, I'm just going to go on the word of the individual. I'm just going to go on the way the individual feels. So if that person's a man, and I've had some of these seen some of these in the family, and they decide to be a woman, not my side of the family either. So far, you can't tell what's up ahead. But he was a dead set bloke and decided he wanted to be a Sheila, but he was still his chromosomes were still male. But he chose to go against that and physically get chopped up to be a Sheila because that's what he wanted to be. But it was only what he wanted to be. He was still a bloke. So these divisive, deceiving, evil people, and that's what I'm going to call this woman, and she's getting paid. I mean, $400,000 a year ain't bad to be for being evil and picking and choosing your answers. She would have access to that information on each individual. Whether she wants to be privy to that or not, I don't think so. I think she's just running with the agenda of let's make men women and let's take away women's rights.
If a person was born male, that's XY. Born
Not
female,
always.
that's XX.
Not always, Senator.
No?
Oh, yes, it is. If you're born XY or whatever it is, you're a male. That's it. Now, whatever happens spiritually or within that person's mind after that has to be clinically dealt with. Fair enough. That's fine. There's going to be genuine cases where there's a conflict of mind against physical biology. But it's a small percentage, and he'll say this himself. The problem with it is these people are running with the majority. And a lot of as usual, the majority aren't genuine cases. They're just males that want to play out the deviancy of being a female.
Can you give me an example when not?
Because there are also people who have innate variations of sex characteristics, and so they may be identified as...
Now, she just said she wasn't a scientist, right? But now, all of a sudden, because it suits her, she's given a scientific answer under the narrative that suits her.
At birth, but in fact then later find out that they have XY chromosomes or XX chromosomes. So it is more complex than just XX being female and XY being male.
I'll agree with that.
In some cases, but it's a very small minority.
But it's a very, very tiny proportion of the population.
Oh, yeah.
But someone who was born a man, a boy, as XY chromosomes cannot change to XX. Is that correct?
If they are born, if their chromosomes are XY, then their chromosomes, I don't believe they can change. But as I repeat, I'm not a scientist, so I haven't studied whether or not
So you're
they
not a
can
scientist.
change it.
How do you know which side to take in a court case?
I'm not taking a side within a court case. Our role is as amicus, so that is to provide clarification, help to the court in understanding the legal issues that are in dispute.
I'll tell you what that puts this person in the position of. A person's being influenced by a demon. They walk up to the skillion at Terrigal, not quite sure what they're doing there, and the next minute they jump over the front, climb over the fence, jump over the front of the skillion and land on a fisherman, kill themselves and the fisherman. And then that person gets buried and the demon's sitting on the tombstone. Nobody can see the demon, but the demon's sitting on the tombstone, licking its lips going, I got that one. That's what this person is. She's playing with the facts. And they've set themselves up with this way of being able to do it, that they think they're deceiving people that have got the ability to go, hang on a sec, this just doesn't add up. She is not adding up.
So how can you clarify if you don't understand?
I understand the law. What I don't understand is the science around the XX, XY, unless
well, she should. If she's the sex discrimination commissioner, right, she should have a complex understanding of those foundational, fundamental things between being a male and a female. Now, whatever happens, as I said before, within that person as to a personal wrestle as to whether they change in their mind as to I don't want to be, I don't think I'm a male, I don't feel like a male, I want to wear a bra, I want to wear a G-string, or whatever, I want to wear a wig, I want to get boobs put on me or something like this, or vice versa, then it doesn't change the chromosomes. So it's an individual choice. And she's not going to, she's trying to turn it into something completely different.
Evidence is before the court. So my role is to assist the court with understanding the legal argument.
On my reading of what you've said in Giggle versus Tickle, the position on biological males and female spaces seems pretty clear at the Human Rights Commission. Could you explain?
What would you like me to explain, sorry, Senator?
What your position is?
On which issue?
The position on biological males in female spaces. Could you please explain the Human Rights Commission, your position on that?
What do you mean by biological males, Senator?
Someone born...
So there you go. The woman's asking Senator Roberts, what is a biological male? That's insane. That's insane. This is the Sex Discrimination Commissioner sitting there in front of the taxpayer, right? We're paying her $400,000 per annum. And she's just sat there and said, what is a biological male?
In female spaces, could you please explain the Human Rights Commission, your position on that?
What do you mean by biological males, Senator?
Someone born as a male, XY chromosomes.
So if they are a man, and depending on which space they are wanting to enter, then and why that space has been created, if it's a special measure, for example, for ensuring equality of women, then there may be good reason to exclude men from that space.
What would be some of the reasons?
For safety reasons, for example.
What sort of safety reasons?
Potentially at a domestic violence refuge, there may be a reason why...
what about a public toilet? What about a public toilet or something as simple as that? See how demonised these people are?
Certainly there is a reason why men would be excluded from a domestic violence refuge for women.
Female prison.
Wouldn't there be a reason just to have men excluded from female private places?
In female
Not according
prisons,
to
then
this
also
person.
it's made for women, and therefore men would be excluded from women's prison.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we live in a very strange country where the Sex Discrimination Commissioner seems to not understand the very basic biology of the sexes. Anna Cody does not stand up for women. In fact, she does not even know what a woman is. Now, this week she spoke at the National Press Club, taking to the stage wearing a badge with her pronouns on it, she, her, in case you're interested. So already, as you can see there, it's all going very swimmingly. Now, she was asked about sex-based rights for women, and her answer was just as confusing as the assertion that men can be women.
The Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, so CEDAW, is absolutely, it's the Women's Convention. But in understanding, as we have developed, it was signed back in 1979, I believe. Since it's been in force in Australia, it has also been interpreted by the committee that looks at the meaning and the understanding of each of the articles of the Convention. So that includes, and it is specifically said, it includes culturally, racially marginalised women, it includes lesbians, it includes First Nations women, women with disability and trans women. So it absolutely...
So she found it hard to get out, but she said it, males that decide to be women.
Absolutely includes all women, because that is who women are. We're not one version of woman.
Well, isn't that funny? Because women disagree with her.
Well, where to even begin? We are not all one version of woman. I mean, how many versions of women does she think that there is? Sex is immutable. There are two sexes, male and female, and look, that does not make me some sort of incredible genius saying that. No. It is basic biology and basic fact. Trans women are not women. They are biological men. Fancy the Sex Discrimination Commissioner not even knowing the very definition. And it's not the first time she's had some sort of fantasy about what a woman is. In the case of Giggle versus Tickle, where biological man Roxanne Tickle argued he had injured feelings after being booted out of a female-only app by founder Sal Grover, counsel for the Commissioner, Celia Winnett, argued that the word woman in the Sex Discrimination Act included trans women. Now, being an activist for the trans community while being the Sex Discrimination Commissioner, while failing to promote a biological definition of sex-based rights, makes you a total failure at your job. Anna Cody, in my view, is not up to the job if she cannot fulfil her very function of protecting women. And joining me now is Giggle founder Sal Grover. Sal, good to catch up with you. How many different versions of women are there? I mean, the Sex Discrimination Commissioner named several.
Well, first of all, can I just say, brilliant intro. I agree with you 100%.
Thank you.
She listed women and men. I mean, you can add anything in front of woman as an adjective. We're still all just women. The moment you add trans in front of the word woman, you are talking about men. This is the problem with gender ideology, is that they think that we will picture a woman if they just say the word woman. And in some cases that's happened, that they're right about that. So that's why they push it so hard. And that's why us on the other side push so hard that they're just men. Men can't be women. It's just as simple as that. As you said in your introduction, they're just men. And so to sit there and compare First Nations women to men, it's actually incredibly insulting. Does she actually realize what she's saying there?
I just don't even think she does. And explain the background to us, because she was asked at National Press Club about the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. What does it say, and how does it actually relate to the issues at hand here when it comes to protecting women's spaces and rights?
So the woman who asked her the question, Megan Paul, asked her a brilliant question. And it was basically about Anna Cody not meeting with women's interest groups that do advocate for single-sex spaces, and how this fits in with her obligations to CEDAW. So the background on this, it's complicated and simple at the same time. Basically, Australia has a Sex Discrimination Act because we became a signatory to CEDAW, which is the Convention of the Elimination Discrimination Against Women. It's a UN convention. It was created in 1979. We signed it in 1983, enacted it in our law in 1984. Now, in 1984, there was nothing about men being women. They never thought to mention it because, of course, they didn't. Who would? Cut to 2013, when Julia Gillard's government did amendments to put gender identity into the Act. Now, in those amendments, they never mentioned trans women. Once again, they're not mentioned. It's just gender identity is mentioned. Then cut to more recent times when Anna Cody has intervened in Giggle v Tickle on the side of Tickle, saying that men who claim to be women are women, they should have access to women-only spaces, and she's relying on CEDAW for this. The problem is CEDAW is a UN convention. It has 189 signatories. For any changes to it, all 189 signatories have to agree. It has never happened. Men are not considered women under CEDAW. It is an utter lie to say that they are. There is one tiny sentence in one accompanying document that says "and other status," and they are relying on that other status to be trans women / men who claim to be women. If CEDAW intended men who claim to be women to be considered women in international law, they would have said it. They've had every opportunity to. They never once have. So at best, she is misleading the Parliament, the courts, and the media on this specific issue. She's relying on CEDAW. She is wrong about it. I'm also relying on CEDAW in part of my case because it hasn't happened. We are in breach of CEDAW in Australian law if we are including men as women. And as you said, she's not fit to be the Sex Discrimination Commissioner. It's why I think she should resign, not just because she doesn't know what sex is, because she is misleading 3 different institutions on what the convention that her act relies on says.
Look, I think it's just extraordinary as well that the Sex Discrimination Commissioner doesn't know what the sexes are. I mean, it's just a basic function, really, of the job. It's astounding. Now, look, I've got to ask you this because it's been revealed 766 people in New South Wales have changed their sex on their birth certificate without gender affirmation surgery. This is, of course, under self-ID laws since July 1. Sal, of those, 496 men have changed their sex to female because the problem is it's that easy. But the point of this is that all of these men can now enter female-only spaces.
Yeah, there's a few things here. So first of all, Suzanne has done an absolutely amazing job in getting this information, and so all credit to her for doing it. Second of all, so it is quite humorous, aside from everything else, it's quite humorous that when these people go and change their birth certificate, the data on who does it is based on their biological sex. So it just goes to show there's absolutely no escaping biological sex. Then, yes, to answer your question, yes. All of these men, so 500 men in New South Wales, can now access female-only spaces. To be honest, any man can, because they can just claim it. The Sex Discrimination Commission, in my case, argued it didn't matter. Whether you have a certificate, whether you don't, nothing matters. They can just go in. So it's just the claim that matters. But if they've actually legally changed it, they can do whatever they want. They have the upper hand. We have absolutely no right to say no to them as women if these men are in our spaces. And the only reason they would do it is to go into women's spaces, because you don't need to change your birth certificate as a man to wear a dress, to call yourself a woman, to wear makeup, to do anything you think a woman does. You can do all of that. We actually do live in a pretty liberal, free society where if that's what your expression is, have fun. Do it. But to go into a female-only space, you're going to need the law. And so that's why they've done it. And that's why it's sinister and we're fighting back.
I just think it's extraordinary we're here in this day and age. But, yeah, we are. Sal Grover, good to catch up with you as always. Thank you so much for joining me on the show this evening.
Oh, well, if you can't get a woman, become one and you'll have as many women around you as you like. I think it's evil and thoroughly corrupt. Imagine getting over $400,000 a year and not even know what the difference between a man and a woman is. I'm out, viewers.